Uh, Hi, Maka, please confirm if you can hear me. Maka, can you hear me? Yeah, guys, please, if you can hear me, drop a message in the chat. I don't know if Amaka can hear me. Kindly drop a message in the chat, okay? Oh, okay, okay. Thank you, thank you. Um, okay, so just give me a second. I'm going to share my screen so we can actually pick up with what we are going to be covering today, right? Which is, of course, database with MongoDB. Okay, so we're going to look at what MongoDB is, and we'll also cover using MongoDB with Node.js and, of course, JavaScript, right? And yeah, so I'll basically give you a step-by-step guide on how to utilize MongoDB. Um, from the terminal, I would show you how to download and install MongoDB, right? I would also show you how to utilize it within your Node.js application. So yeah, let's get started. Give me a second. Let's share my screen. Okay. So close a couple of things here that are not necessary. Just give me a second. I have a lot of tabs. So I'll be sharing my entire screen. Okay. Let's take this off. Close this. Okay, so I'm going to start off by this card. Okay, so I'm going to start off by showing us how databases work. Of course, we have covered this before, but just like a quick overview, right? Let's quickly come up with something on Escalidraw so we can get to see how databases work, especially with the context of what we're about to cover this evening. Okay, not that. Just give me a second. Give me a second, please. 1 minute. 1 minute, okay? All right, apologies. Yeah, okay. So right here, I have Escalidraw opened. What I want to show us is, a very simple flow. So let's say we have our front-end application. So I've shown this kind of examples multiple times, but I love to show, what we are trying to achieve when we say we are utilizing a database in our system, right? Now, remember that you can actually have your front end and back end sit in one place. So instead of having an example that looks like this, it's also possible to say just have the application, which is a monolith, right? Comprises of front end and the back end, right? So you can have everything in one place. If you have worked with Laravel before, Django, uh, Python, you can actually have everything seated in one place. So right now, when I put up diagrams like this, I'm basically referring to what I call, deployable components. So what do I mean by deployable components? It means these guys can simply sit on their own, right? So in this case, we have everything sitting together. Okay, and I'm going to use this to showcase our database. So given the assumption that this right here is our database, plus MongoDB to be precise. The way the communication would flow, uh, you know, across this application that you're seeing right here, the front end basically it starts from the actor. So when I mean actor, I'm referring to the user, right? And I'm calling these names so that you guys can get used to these names, right? You're going to see things like this actor. Okay, we're referring to like an entity that basically acts on the system. Okay, so the actor initiates a process of probably signing up or trying to perform a certain action that relates to the system from the front end, right? It can be from the front end, it can be over another API. So an actor can simply sit here as well. Okay, there are different ways to interface with a system, and the front end is, of course, one of them, right? We can also communicate with the system via API. Okay, so there are platforms where you don't have an interface to work with. You use API, connection, right? Okay, so but for the sake of this example, we have the user, which is the actor, and the user can also sit here. When the user sends that request or that set of data, the application, in this case, the backend receives it and it sends it to the backend, right? The front end, sorry, receives it and it sends that, it processes it and sends that particular data to the backend. Um, in this case, we just have the actor send the request, right? Let's put that here. Let's call it a payload, or let's just say a request. Okay. So we just have that request go straight, you know, to this particular component. Okay. Now, when it gets into this component, what happens is you have a database sitting somewhere. That database is basically responsible for, storing that particular record. Okay. So our backend or our full stack application, right, would send that particular request, into the database. Okay. So for our first example here, we have that request, that input, right, from the user into the front end, and we basically have that data sent as a payload to the backend, right, which is most likely an API backend. Okay. Let's just say a Node.js API backend for the sake of our example, of course. And we have that particular item now sent into the database. So the way MongoDB stores our records, remember I've mentioned before that MongoDB uh, is a document database, also known as a NoSQL database, right? So instead of storing items in a tabular format, it basically stores. So instead of storing in tables, uh, it stores documents as, or let's say it stores data as documents. Okay. So documents here, I explained the other day as well. I told you have fields, you have documents, you have collections, right? Okay, collections. Okay, and then you have your database. So the way this actually looks like is you first have your database, and next you have collections inside databases, right? This is how this set of records are structured in MongoDB. You have your database, and an example here can be, let's simply call this my book database. Okay, so in here you can have a collection called books. Okay, so books collection, right? And then inside the collection you have documents. So inside that document you can have sample book that looks like this. So you have maybe let's say book name, right? Let's just say name, category, okay, price. Maybe you're selling those books, okay, and I don't know. I guess yeah, some other details like about the book, right? So you have this record stored like this. Let's say fiction, name. Um, yeah, let's just say Harry goes to school. Of course, these items are stored as string values, right? So the string values. You also have an ID. It's called the document ID, which is a random set of character. Let's just use this as an example. So of course, you have your integer values about. So you can say maybe available true. Okay, let's just put a boolean value right. Okay, so this is an example of what a document would look like. And right inside this document, you have those fields, right? So each of these values we have right here, these are fields. Okay, and just add a color code here. Right. So these are basically, this is the document, and within the document we have fields. Okay. So hope that makes sense. Now we are about to, uh, I'm about to show you how to download MongoDB if you don't have it installed already. Okay. So please make sure you pay attention and follow through in the class. Okay. So let's jump into downloading MongoDB. All right. So this is what I have. Most of you have been asking you want to be getting these diagrams. I will try to be, probably export the diagrams as a PDF after the sessions. Do well to remind me in the WhatsApp group so I can do that. Let's visit the MongoDB website. Let's just search for MongoDB. So let's see. Okay, I really don't like these errors. Give me a second. Right, just MongoDB. Let's visit the website. Okay, so if you visit the official website mongodb.com, you can simply download. The network is a bit messy, yeah. But you see, you can simply visit /try/download/community. So you can get the community version, right, which is the free version. Of course, if you don't want to download this natively, you can simply use MongoDB Atlas, right? Atlas is basically the cloud version of MongoDB. Okay, we'll get to that, but let's look at the community server. So yeah, visiting this page, if you visit the main page, you can also go to products. When you click on products, you see we have Compass. This is the GUI tool. We'll be exploring that shortly as well. Okay, so that is Compass. Let's click on this again. So Compass is the GUI tool you can simply use to work with the data. Atlas is a cloud tool, right? It's a cloud platform where you can create your database and, of course, manage your databases. Okay. Then we can also choose to download, we can choose to download the community edition of MongoDB. So we can install it locally and get to use it. Okay. Yeah. So if you want to go with that, you can simply click on download, try community edition, right? Okay. Click on download. When you click on download, it brings you to this particular page. Try MongoDB Community Edition. If you are using a Mac, you can try the MongoDB Atlas, option. Um, yeah, you can try the MongoDB Atlas option natively, but you can simply download the community version by selecting your operating system, the version, and basically the package type as well, and then click on download. Okay. Let's go down a bit. So this is the Kubernetes operator. Let's look for what we need here. Where is it? Okay, so Windows. Where is that? Okay, Windows. Oh, right here. Okay, so Windows, the MSI package. Okay, so you can click on this for Windows users, right? You just have to select Windows and the MSI package. So you can click on download. For Ubuntu users or Debian users, and simply click on this, right? Ubuntu 22. Yeah, and you can go with maybe the Debian package, or I think it's server package. Yeah, let's see. There are other options to actually perform this installation. So this is the other option here. I think a lot of people actually prefer, going that route. So if I say MongoDB community download on Ubuntu, let's start by going to doc.go.com. I think it's probably because of WAP. Google keeps asking me to verify I'm human. All right, so yeah. So this is how I'm sure we can get to see the simple command to perform that installation on Linux with command line, right? For most people, is a preferred option. Okay, so there's a command line instruction you can actually follow to install this on your machine if you're a Debian user. If you are a Mac user, there is also an option. All you have to do is follow this step by step, right? If you're a Linux user, then I'm sure you understand what this is already. Um, all right, so let's see. Brew install MongoDB. I'm sure it's MongoDB community. If you're a Mac user, then you probably want to go with this option. I don't like this. Okay. Brew install MongoDB. All right. So let's open that up in a new tab and see the exact command, so that you can easily install that with Homebrew. Okay. All right. So first, you want to make sure you have the Xcode development command line tool installed, right? And then you want to say brew tap MongoDB slash brew updates, and then brew install MongoDB in community. Okay. So a lot of people prefer to go this route. Uh, I mean, I also prefer to go this route if I'm downloading this on the Mac OS. Okay. For Windows, you just have to download the MSI package, and you install that and you're good, right? To download the MSI package, click on download, and you proceed to install. When you are done installing that package, you want to verify. In order to verify from your terminal, simply open Mongosh, Mongosh. Okay, zoom in. So, of course, for Windows users, you can try this on Git Bash or PowerShell, right? Or any other terminal you have downloaded to use on your machine. So when I type in Mongosh and I press the Enter key, this is going to basically load the Mongo shell. Okay, so you see I have the Mongo shell loaded up here. I was thrown into the test DB. There are some commands we're going to explore, right? If I say show DBs, I can see all the database that I have created, natively on my machine, right? So let's just exit for now. Exit. Okay. Um, Now that we've seen how to basically download MongoDB, we'll get to talk about Atlas very soon. The first thing I want us to look into is, some of the commands you use when trying to work with MongoDB. Okay, so let's just explore some of these commands right now. All right, so I'm going to do this again. I'll say Mongosh, right, which is Mongo shell. So by putting in Mongo shell, this takes me straight to the shell one more time. And the first command, these are some of the basic commands, right? You should pay attention to. Show DBs is the command that basically shows you the databases you have. Okay, so we're trying to see these databases. Then let's say you want to use one of these database, like this is a database I just created today. I was explaining a couple of things to some people. So now this is the sign up DB. Okay. So in order to use the sign up DB, I can simply say use sign up, right? So now you see it says switched to DB sign up. All right. So now I have been switched to that particular DB, no longer the test DB. And of course, I can get to see what I also have inside the sign up DB, which is the collection, right? So let's take a look at the collection. All I have to do is say show collections, and you can see that I only have one collection called users, right? Just like I explained here, we have been able to see the DB, and I said use signups, which is the name of the DB. Okay, the name of the collection we can see inside that DB is users, right? So I can simply check, to see what I have inside users. First off, um, I can start by saying db.users find, right? This particular query would give us all the information we have inside that particular collection. So if we have more records, you're going to see those records show up here, right? You see, this is an array of records, an array of objects, and right here we only have one of these objects because we just have one record. Okay, so this is basically how you get to see all the items you have in a particular collection. Um, all right, we have another command. If you want to see, the users, right, the users in your database, you can simply say show users. But of course, I mean, right now we don't have any of that. So just, give a few minutes, we'll basically get to see an example on that. Let's go back one step. What I'm going to do right now, I'm going to exit this again. Let's come back into Mongoose. And this time around, I want us to create some records in a new database. Okay, so let's create some records in a new database. I'm going to start by saying use 300 dev days. Let's just say dev days, right? Now you see we have switched to dev days, but we did not create a database called dev days. By simply saying use dev days, we have put ourselves in a position to say, this database exists, even when it doesn't exist yet. The only time this database will be created, or the only time it will be actually created, is when we create a record inside this database, right? When you create a record within the database, it gets created automatically. Okay, so you don't have to, there's no specific command for creating a new database here, right? When you create a record, you just have to create the database name like this by saying use the name of the database, right? If I say use mav, now switch to db mav, right? If I say show dbs, look at this, you can't really find mav here yet because no record have been created inside that db that we made up. Okay, so if I say use um, magic or magic, you see we are currently in the DB map magic. But if I say show DBs, you see we don't actually have map magic yet until that particular database holds a record. Okay, all right. What we are going to do right now, let's go back again. I would say use dev days, and we're going to create a record inside dev days. Okay, so I'm going to simply say db dot the collection. Now I don't really have a collection inside dev days. Of course, if I say show collections, you see we don't have any collection yet. So we're going to create one by simply saying db. Let's call that collection um, class, right? Let's just call it class. Let's call it a student. Okay, so I'm going to insert. I'm going to use insert one. So basically, we have insert one and we have insert many. So how did I bring out this command? I just said db.student.insert and I use the tab key. When I press the tab key, I see the options I have there: insert many and insert one. So insert many is for inserting multiple items. You just have to put in an array of objects. Insert one is going to just accept one. So let's work with insert one. Okay. In here, we're going to put in the record that we want to create. Now, remember, MongoDB is no SQL. You don't necessarily need to keep up with a specific structure. You can accept the shape that you provide. Sorry, you can accept the shape that you provide. So, if I proceed to say, let's say ID, I say one, right? And then I say, actually, I prefer to create some of these records in another empty file first. Okay, so I prefer to create it in another empty file so that it will be easier for me to, correct some errors. So now I said insert one. I'm going to say ID one. Remember, we already have an ID by default that will be generated. So instead, let's just say class number one. Okay, right. So now that I said class number one, I can also put in some additional records. Records like I can put in records like name. Let's just try something here. So I'm going to create a new record and I'll just put in like the name. So let's say the name. I put in the name and I say Marvelous Solomon. Okay. I can put in maybe age. I say 30. So this person is 30. This should be, yeah, just like this. Okay. So 30 there representing a number. And I can say maybe department, right? Department. Let's just say computer science. Okay. So now this is the record I am trying to create. Class number, the name, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's copy this record right now. I'm just going to copy that record and paste it in here. You see, when I press enter, it says acknowledged true, which says this record has been inserted. This is valid. Okay, now we have the inserted ID. This is the ID of the record that was inserted. Now let's say show collections. Now you see we have a collection called students. Okay, now let's say show DBs. Now you see we have a DB, let's say, called dev days. Okay. So if I say db.student, right, dot find, we're going to see the record we just created right now. Just one record. So let's try to add more. So I'll say class number two, marvelous, magic, age, 35. And this would be IT or information technology. Let's copy that and paste it in here. Now it says inserted, acknowledge true, inserted ID, new ID. So if I say db.student dot find, we're going to see we now have two records. Let's add the third one, Mav, or I can say Solomon, magic, age 5, department, um, magic department. Okay, so if I copy this, paste it one more time, acknowledge true, inserted ID. Okay, say db dot student find. Now I see I have three items. First one, second one, the third one. So what I've been able to do is to use one of these commands, which is db dot the collection name. So basically, this is the collection name, right? You have to say db dot that collection name dot the action, which is insert one, and also the insert many, of course, right? Okay. So this is basically how you perform that insert operation that I'm trying to explain. Okay. The next thing I want us to simply do right now is show you how you can insert multiple items. Right. So we have insert one, we have insert many, and when performing the insert many action, I mentioned that you need to put this into a list. Right. So you have to put this into a list. We have the first item right here, ends here. Okay. And then we're going to put in the second item here. So I can simply copy this. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to put this into students. So we can actually, let's put this into teachers. Let's just say we have teachers. Okay. So class number, I will also stick to one here, and here I would stick to two. So name, teacher magic, age 72. And the first one, teacher Solomon, age 5. Right. For the department, let's say computer department. Now it makes sense if you format this, right? I mean, there are tools out there you can simply use to format this. Okay. Someone said something is blocking the button. Okay, apologies. Let me help you out there. Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Um, yeah, let me go back again. So it makes sense if you want to also format this, right? There are tools you can use to format it, or you can simply, spread it out this way, right? I mean, not necessary, but just so that you see it clearly. If this is a bit disturbing, right? So you can choose to arrange it this way. But of course, as I mentioned, it's not necessary before you can create the record. Okay. But yeah, if you choose to keep it this way, that's fine. It's all good. Now you see we have our record properly arranged. Copy this and paste it in here. So now you see we have IDs 0 and 1. So you see that we're able to insert two items into our database under teachers, right? So we have to verify if that is actually correct, if it actually worked. So let's say show collections of students and teachers. If I say DB teachers, find, it gives me the record of the teachers. Okay. So this is basically how you perform insert option, insert action. Next one would be performing a simple um, find with the with a key. We have seen insert one, insert many. Let's just see now that we have inserted some items. Let's assume we have a lot of items and want to search for a particular item. So say we want to search for a record that have age as 55. Now for such a search, we can simply say db dot teachers, for example, dot find one. So if we say find one, this is where you now specify the key. So I can say where age is 72, right? For example, now you see we just have one record returned. If I did not specify that filter, I'm simply going to return everything. I specify the filter just like this. One, of course, we want to get one item here. Okay, so I can start by putting the braces just like this. I can say age. Let's go with 55 this time around. See, we have just one record, teacher Solomon. I try this time around with 72. You see, we have one teacher, teacher Magic. Okay, we can also use this to search across the other records. So if I say db.student, can't remember what we have in the student record anyway. So let's just start by saying db.student.find. Okay, so we have a student with the name. Okay, so I see we have two students with class number of two, right? So class number of two, we have two students. Class number of one, we just have a student. So if I say db.student.find one, I specify class number of one. Okay, error there. So now you see, I just fixed that. Now you see we have one record only, class number of one. I use the same thing but two. Now you see, let's see how many. What do we have here? I said dot find. Yeah, okay. So I said dot find one. If I want to get like all the items with the filter, I just have to say dot find. And now you see I have two records with the filter of class number uh, equating to two. Okay. So this is basically how you perform, find the filter or find one if you just need one item. All right. So I hope this makes sense. We still have more to cover. So for example, performing updates, you can perform an update on one item or an update on multiple items. So we have, update one, update many, replace one. We have delete one, we have delete many, right? Just going to show some examples here before we proceed. Let's see what we have in the chat. Okay. So is all interface with MongoDB all CLI? No, we have the MongoDB Compass. We'll be checking that out shortly, right? But trust me, working with the CLI and learning how to work with the CLI should not scare you, right? Um, it's very nice, and you get used to it over time. Okay, and it's also fun. In fact, it's faster when you learn to work with the CLI. Yeah, so let's proceed. We've been able to, do find. Let's use this note instead. Okay, so we've been able to do find, right? Find one. Can also do insert one, insert many. Oh, yeah, not insert, but yeah, insert one, insert many. So and yeah, I also mentioned delete, right? So we're going to do that next. Delete one, okay, and delete many. All right, so let's do this first before we perform an update. When you are trying to perform a delete action, let's look at a sample record here. We have the record with class number of one. Now, if I simply say db.student dot find, I get three records. Let's delete the record with the class number of one. So I'm simply going to copy this. Let's say db dot delete. Sorry, that's student first dot delete, right? So now you see we have delete one and delete many. So I can put in the property here, and you see we have acknowledged true, delete count one. If you put in a record that doesn't exist, for example, it says delete count zero, right? So it shows that it did not delete anything. But here it says delete count one, which means it has deleted one record. So now if I say db dot students, okay, find. Now you see instead of having three records, we now have just two, okay, because we've deleted one. Of course, if I should, go ahead and perform the same action, but this time around, if I should say delete many. All I need to specify is that array, right? I can put in the records in here just like this. So I can say item with class number of 2, right? And let's say item of age 45. So now we have an error. It says Bison field delete. Let's say, where do we have that error? Oh, okay. So I think the challenge here is the array because, yeah, delete many is going to delete multiple records, but you don't necessarily have to specify the array. Just remembered. So all you have to specify is that particular, filter, and then you see this takes off a delete count of 2. So if I say db dot students dot find, we are not going to see any record in there. Okay. Let's just go ahead and put back these records. So what I'm going to do, I don't want to put the record. Oh yeah, I think I have a sample here. So students, let's just paste this first. Let's say students. I already use students, so let's stick to that. Okay. So I'm just trying to paste this again, but of course, I want to make sure I'm not passing the ID because ID is generated on its own. Of course, you can decide to say you don't want it to be generated and to pass it yourself. But I prefer having it, generated. So now I was able to insert many. And if I say db the students find, let's see, what do we have there? Students, not students. So now you see I have 2 records again. Okay, so we've seen how delete and delete one and delete many works. We also have the option where you can update one, you can update many, right? This is basically what the command looks like. If you want to perform update one, update many, this is what the command looks like. So you first say db the collection name, of course, just like the students that we're working with or the teacher, just like this. Update one, you specify the query, right? This is basically what you use for that search. And then you use set with the field and the value to specify what you are trying to update. So say we're trying to update, a student record where the student age is 35. That sits in here, right? And now you want to set that age. So you can say set that age to 42. Just, for example, right? So let's run that. Modification count, as you can see, 1. We have a student with age of 35 right here, which is exactly what we used. Now, if I say db the student dot find, right? So if I should run this, now you see the age has changed to 42. We have performed an update action on that age. Okay. All right, so someone is asking, is there a difference between a start and create? Well, when we start, so this is the CLI, right? Create is probably when you start working with Node.js. We'll get to that shortly. Okay. We also have like a create function, basically for doing things like indexing. We have create index, right? We have a way to drop a collection. You can drop a database by simply saying db dot drop database. So you can either drop database, you can drop user, you can drop all users, you can drop row, right? Um, so let's see, if I say drop database, it's simply going to drop that database, but we don't want to do that because we want to use this for our example. So just try as much as possible to pay attention to the commands because it will definitely go a long way. Okay. Um, let's see how you can use the MongoDB. Okay, before we do that, before we actually jump into using this in Node.js, I would love to show you. I would love to show you what the MongoDB Compass tool looks like. So this is basically the MongoDB GUI tool. Let's say reopen. Okay. All right. So this is the Compass tool that you see right here. All you have to do is download it from the page, MongoDB Compass. So let's simply perform that search. MongoDB Compass download. Okay, that is double S, of course. All right. So when I click on this MongoDB Compass download, it takes me straight to the link that I can simply use to download that MongoDB Compass application. All right. So this is the shell. This is the MongoDB shell. This is the MongoDB Compass right here. So click on Compass. By the way, for some of you that might want to just download the shell and use the shell straight from your terminal without stressing so much, you can simply use the shell itself. This is the shell. You just have to select your operating system and click on download. Okay. So let me share this with you in the chat as well. All right. So say you've downloaded, Compass. This is Compass right here, GUI tool. So you can select your platform, have it, downloaded, right? So I already have it downloaded right here. Yeah, this is basically connecting to my local host. I can simply click on connect. I can set up new connections if I have external databases I want to connect to. So if I click on create, this is simply going to connect to my local database. And of course, you see for the table we've been working with, right? Dev days. I click on dev days, you see we have those collections, students and teachers, right? Of course, you can view them in different format, but let's keep it this way. If I click on students, for example, you see the records. And of course, you can simply get to see the number of documents from here as well. Okay, so you see the records, and these are the records, the class number, the name. Of course, you have permission. I mean, you can edit all this if you want to. Yeah, so copy. You can clone the document. You can delete as well, right? So let's just take off one document for example. I just deleted a document in the student, collection. Go back to my terminal now. I say db student find. Now you see we just have one record only. Okay, so you can download that already, and I don't want to dive into speaking to every single part of this because that alone will take a lot of time. Okay, but all you have to do is download, connect to that specific host, and you get to see your databases, your collection, and simply your documents. Okay, all right. So let me move on to building that simple, very simple CRUD application with JavaScript, right? So someone said no, you can use Mongoose ORM. I don't think is anybody asking. Yeah. So what are you answering the question from Oluwasegun? Is all interface with MongoDB or CLI? CLI is the shell, interface, right? You have the GUI, which I've mentioned right now. You also have Atlas, right? MongoDB Atlas. Using Mongoose ORM is just simply, using uh, yeah, it's simply using another service, right? I don't think I would call that a service, more like a library, right? Mongoose is a library. And, let's not call that an ORM, right? This is document DB. So let's call it an ODM. That's the right term here. Okay. So using Mongoose, what you're basically going to end up doing is you're simply using a library that makes it easier for you to interact with DB, right? But then that DB connection, would definitely happen with something called the MongoDB connector. We're going to build a very simple application here. So we would use the MongoDB library and then we'll connect to the MongoDB client. It's called the Mongo client. Okay. So we're doing that right now. We're going to build an application where we can create records, delete records, something very simple, no big deal. Okay. So let's pull up terminal. You guys are already aware. Um, let's exit first. Yeah, let's create a new one. So you're already aware, or you already know how to create application. So let's say backend tests with Mongo. All right. So cd backend test with Mongo. All right. Touch server.js npm 8 y. So I'm going to install the package called MongoDB, right? So let's say npm install MongoDB. This is going to install MongoDB. So I'm simply going to use that server.js application. I'm going to create an application and Yeah, let's start by creating the file. Sorry, I meant the file, server.js file. So let's have this install. Then we'll create the server.js file. So let's say touch no, not that. rm okay, touch server.js. All right, so this is the file. Now let's go into this file. I think I would rather go with code. Most of us are familiar with VS Code, so let's pull up VS Code. So what I'm going to do right now within the server.js file, let's zoom in so you can see this clearly. Okay, I think this is probably good. All right, inside the server.js file, I'm simply going to create what I call the Mongo client. All right, so let's bring in MongoDB and let's grab Mongo clients. Yeah, okay. So we're going to create our connection. Let's say const URL equals. So this is what we put in our connection. So it's MongoDB localhost 27017. Right. This is basically how you connect to MongoDB locally. We're also going to say our database name. Let's just call it DB name. DB name, just like this. So our database name this time around is going to be Books App. All right, Books App Store. And now we can simply connect. So I'll say client. We have to first create a client. So let's say const. So go ahead and show that as an error. Terminal tell us error or maybe an error occurred while connecting to MongoDB. So it makes sense if you do this so that if you're having issues connecting to your database, you also get to know, right, with this simple error. Okay, so let's just return if that's the case. Let's return this, and this is the point where we can now say, const db. We're trying to communicate with the db, so let's say client.db, with the db name. All right, so let's see if we have equals. Okay, don't know why I keep making these mistakes. Yeah. So now we can start performing our actions. Let's start by saying to insert a document. Another mistake. All right, so we're going to insert a document into our database, right? And we're simply going to put that in a collection. Let's call that collection books, right? So we have books collection inside the bookstore, inside the books app store database. Okay, so we're simply going to say we're trying to insert. Okay, that's fine. So const insert documents. So create a function. There's going to be a function in here. We're passing that DB. We're passing the callback here. So if you're using Mongoose, of course, this is way easier, right? So now that we've created this, we can start by defining our collection because we haven't done that. So let's say our collection db.collection. We want this to be seated in what we call, let's not call that document. Let's call it books, right? And yeah, now we can say collection dot insert documents. That should be insert one. Sometimes the intelligence you get from here can be misleading, right? So insert one. Okay, so this is exactly what we now get to insert our record, okay, inside the collection. So we can have like maybe book name. Let's just say name, Harry, teacher. That is the name of the book, right? And maybe the author. Let's just say the author is called Harry. Okay, just a simple one here. Okay, now this is the point where you can also get to track, the can track error status or the result if there is one, right? So if you're expecting a result based on the kind of query that you run. Okay, so you can basically keep track of that. You can keep track of that in here. So you can simply say, okay, if there's an error when trying to create this record, I don't know why this keeps popping up. So if there's an error when trying to create a record or insert a record, let's go ahead and state what that error is actually. Okay, so you can easily go ahead and say console.log error. Yeah, that's fine. So if there's no error, let's make sure we return this. If there's no error, so no error. This is basically where you get to show that there's no error. Now, this example, of course, is not using Mongoose, which is making it look, difficult because Mongoose will basically achieve this with a one-liner, right? We'll be looking at Mongoose tomorrow, anyways. But yeah, so this is just, to show you how you can work with the MongoDB client. Not necessarily with Mongoose. We'll look at how you can use Mongoose tomorrow. Okay, being Tuesday. All right. So if there's no error, you can just go ahead and say console.log document or record inserted successfully. Okay. So now we have been able to insert that particular record successfully. Yes. Okay. And of course, you can, grab the callback here with results. Let's see. Do I have this? Hold on a second. Yes, I do have results here. I was beginning to look for that. Okay, so this is how you basically perform that insert action, right? And you can basically have more commands. We have the command to find, right? You basically have to run it almost similar way. The only difference would be the command that would change a bit. So now we are simply saying db.collection. This is the point where we create or we define collection to use for the action. Okay, so you have to define that collection, and then this is the action. Okay, that's collection, that's insert one. Right. So I hope this makes sense. I'm going to be sharing a PDF, that I've created that contains the complete prod operation, insert, find, update, delete, right? Going to send that to us. And I would also include a detail of using Mongoose, right, where you have to set up schemas and set up the document models. I will create that document and share accordingly so that you guys can also prepare well before the session tomorrow. Okay, so I'll create that document and share with us so we can also prepare for the session tomorrow. Let me look at some of the questions you have. Mongoose versus Mongo client, any difference? Yeah, Mongo client is kind of like the baseline library, right? Which is the MongoDB library that we have installed. Mongoose is an ODM, right? Object, document mapper, right? So you use it to map, some of these things with a schema. You can basically map some of these fields, and also you can even use it to specify what goes in, what goes out, the structure of your DB, and a couple of other details. Within the Mongoose library gives you the ability and also flexibility to work with MongoDB while maintaining a couple of things like data integrity, the data that actually goes into your database based on the model you've defined. Okay, based on the model you've defined. So Mongoose basically gives you an edge, right? When working with MongoDB, it makes you faster. Unlike spending this amount of time trying to just create a block of code that can insert a record, we have to definitely create a collection, right? And then use that collection to perform that action. So it's kind of lengthy. If it's Mongoose, all you have to do is set this up from the very beginning and subsequently just call a few commands to get the results. Okay, so it's 9 o'clock already, and I don't want to take our time. Someone said, will documents carry info on how to insert unique records? Yeah, so basically, each of those records are already set as unique, given the fact that every record has a unique ID. If you want to specify those records that should be unique, right? During entry. Now, these are some things you can basically end up, I mean, I think that's the point where you have to appreciate Mongoose as well, right? You get some of the, benefits of utilizing what have been implemented to, safeguard your own implementation, right? So you leverage on those libraries with the additional features and benefits you get to achieve some of those things that you would like to achieve. Okay, such as trying to avoid duplicate entry. So Mongoose should be able to help you set that on the schema level. Okay, we'll take a look at that tomorrow. So no big deal. We'll take a look at that tomorrow. It's already past 1 hour. Do have a wonderful evening, guys, and by tomorrow we'll be covering building the complete CRUD operation with Mongoose. Right? I will share this with you. I'll share this with you on the WhatsApp group and on the Discord server, probably within the next 1 hour. Okay. So do have a wonderful night. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining, and yeah, good night.